Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I am known in some circles as the guy who builds farmhouses. Yep, farmhouses. Like this one, it's called La Masia. It's in the northeastern region of the country. It's in a place called Catalan. It was built in 1702. La Masia is a farmhouse that is symbolic of raising a generation of champions, of raising a generation of leaders. It's a symbol of a pathway to create success, of rising above where people would ever think you could go or what you could achieve. It symbolizes finding a way to be on the world stage. It wasn't always like this. That farmhouse didn't always represent that. It didn't happen until 1901, and in 1901, the leader of the organization in that country realized that if they were going to build a generation of champions in their country, that they were going to have to start with the youth. But he didn't really execute. The organization didn't execute on that idea. They just had the idea. Decades went by until in 1979, another leader of the organization said, I want to hold on to this idea of raising a generation of youth to grow our country into a country of champions. But I want to focus all of our efforts in bringing those youth to this place, to this farmhouse, La Masia. And so he began to do that. It changed what was happening in the country. They began to attract youth from around the country and draw them into this place. They were bringing kids as young as age 6 from their families to go to that farmhouse. And in that farmhouse, they built champions. The process worked so well that they decided they were going to expand this idea. They took this one farmhouse called La Masia, and they replicated it 47 times. They put 48 locations around the country to do exactly the same thing. They were drawing youth from every community around the country to this place to live there. And when they came there, they knew they were coming to be trained as champions. And what they would do is they would put them in this system where they would start kind of on the 4th level. And as they progressed and they got better, they would move them to the 3rd level and ultimately to the 2nd level and then to the 1st level of being world champions. They were so good at this that ultimately what happened was they were able to achieve 22 world and European titles. Let me tell you what some of those titles are. They produced 5 Champions League titles, 4 UEFA Cup Winners' Cups, 5 UEFA Super Cups, 3 Intercity Fairs Cups, 2 Latin Cups, and 3 FIFA World Cups. In 2010, FIFA awarded or gave the award for the best footballer in the world. It's called the Ballon d'Or. It had 3 finalists in 2010, and all 3 finalists were from that place, La Masia. The farmhouse and the organization that represents that farmhouse and that built that farmhouse has been named football's foremost production line. And the champions that they built became what is undoubtedly known as the best football team or soccer team in the entire world, and that is FC Barcelona. The man who won that award in 2010, who was trained in that farmhouse that I showed you a bit earlier, was someone that you may know. His name is Lionel Messi. And it all came from a farmhouse. I build farmhouses. I shared this story for the very first time just a few months ago with this group of people. This group of people is called the Saudi Arabia eSports Authority, and I was asked to go talk with them about this idea. They actually didn't know I was going to talk about farmhouses. I sat there with this organization that was designed and created by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He had an idea of what he wanted to do, and he designated his cousin, who is one of the princes, to be in charge of the eSports Authority, the group of people that I sat with that day. Why was I with them that day in November? It's because a month earlier, on October 13th, on a Thursday morning, and it was an early Thursday morning, I remember getting a text message on WhatsApp from my very good friend Abid Nachar. Abid's a great friend. He's a great man. He grew up in a very difficult situation in Syria. He bounced around the world. His family ended up in Lebanon and then over into Saudi Arabia, and Abid and I became very, very good friends. On that Thursday morning, very early, I got a very simple text message from Abid, and he said, "Brett, have you seen the news?" I wiped the sleep from my eyes. I haven't seen anything yet, Abid. I know it's the middle of the day there, but it's very early here right now. I opened my phone, and I had 2 links that were sent to me by Abid. I clicked on the first one, and I read something that I eventually would sit with the eSports Authority, and I would read them the same thing. The first one said this: "The kingdom hopes to become one of the top 3 countries with the highest number of eSports competitors by encouraging more Saudis to take up professional gaming." And then I clicked on the second link. "Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince has announced a plan to develop the country's gaming and eSports industry, aiming to create 39,000 jobs and boost the GDP by $13.3 billion. I read these quotes to that group of people in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in November. I was sitting on this side of the table of a very large boardroom table. It was just me. Next to me was my buddy Abid, thank goodness. Down at the end of the table was another friend of mine named Ahmed Al-Hokair. He was just there to support me. And across the entire length of that table was the entire organization, asking why I was there. I shared with them the story of the farmhouse. I read these quotes to them, and then I said, "But I do have 2 issues with these quotes." And they said, "Oh, really?" I said, "The first one is this. In the news article, it says that the Crown Prince wants to be in the top 3 countries in the world in eSports. I don't believe that." And they said, "You don't?" And I said, "No." And I leaned forward and I said, "I think he wants to be number 1. And they leaned forward and they said, "You're right, he does." I said, "Here's my second issue. The second article says that his plan to do this is to have a goal of 2030. And I said, right now, what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is doing in this industry and what this group is doing is you're investing in professional esports teams, which is great. You're holding very high-end competitions, which is great. You're buying other companies to build this industry, which is great. But the average professional gamer in the world retires at about 21 years old. I said, so that means your championship teams, for you to be number 1 in the world right now, they're 9 to 11 years old, and you have no idea where they are. But I have good news. I build farmhouses. Why would the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia care at all about video games? It's because there is a deep connection, as we all know, fundamentally, between sports and economic development. Those of you who play golf may know something about Live Golf, which also originated, incidentally, in Saudi Arabia. Esports and competitive gaming falls within the category of sports. Now, I know right now what some of you are thinking, or maybe you're whispering to a friend next to you. Larry, playing video games is not a sport. If you're thinking that, and you had that conversation with me, it wouldn't be the first time, obviously, that I have that kind of conversation. I've had it a lot, but my 2 favorite times that I've had that conversation were both with someone that's very famous in Springfield, Missouri. I got to have that conversation on ESPN with Ned Reynolds twice. You can imagine what it was like for me and Ed to talk about video games and esports. And he did ask the question, Brett, is this really a sport? I've never imitated Ned Reynolds in my entire life, but I just did it. The second time that I had that conversation with him, it got even better because we had the esteemed next to me, the esteemed former athletic director, Bill Rowe. So now I've got Bill Rowe next to me, I've got Ned Reynolds over here, and they're tag teaming me on this idea, is esports really a sport? In the United States, if someone wants to come into our country on a visa, and they are an athlete, a sports visa, there's 4 options that they have. They can get a B, they can get an H, they can get an O, and they can get a P visa issued by the United States to someone who plays sports, and that also includes people who play competitive video games. The United States government has designated esports as a sport. This guy is Danny Shifter. He's the first one who ever received one of these visas. It was in 2013. And by now, I know that you're probably thinking, this guy, whoever he is on this stage, so far has talked about Spain, he's talked about Saudi Arabia, somehow Ned Reynolds has entered into this conversation. We don't know how that happened. But Brett, we're a bunch of business owners and CEOs and high executives, and we need stats, we need data. I'm about to give it to you. Are you ready? Because I'm going to bring this all home to Springfield very quickly. A couple things you can look at. 68% of American adults play video games at least once a week. 71% of American kids under 18 play a video game at least once a week. The average video game player in our country is 33 years old. You thought they were 11. 97% of Americans view games as beneficial in some way. 89% of Americans view games as useful for building skills. 83% play with others online or in person. The total revenue in 2021 was $60.4 billion. There are 200 universities right now that offer varsity programs in esports. That's shocking. When I started the business that I have in esports in 2018, there were about 20, maybe. There are millions of dollars being issued right now in scholarships for people to come and play League of Legends or Rocket League or some of the other games that people would compete in collegiate esports. Gaming is not going away. So we can either ignore it or we can embrace it. Why would we embrace it? And here's the word. We're going to put it really big on the screen for you. It's called Techfluency. Techfluency. This is where I make the switch in your brain. Gaming is a pathway to organic, can we say free? To organic or to free techfluency. Being fluent in technology. Gaming does that for people. Do you think that I'm the only one that believes this? I would suggest to you I'm not, because I'm going to take you right back halfway around the world. When I went to that meeting in Riyadh in November, I was picked up in a car by my friends. They said, we're going to go to the offices of the Saudi Arabian eSports Authority. So we drove there, and when I got there, I said, where are we going? And they said, we're going to the business gate. You may or may not have ever heard of the business gate. These are some of the companies that are at the business gate. It is the central area for the Middle East where every tech company in the world has their headquarters. Not for Riyadh, not for Saudi Arabia, but for half of the planet. It's located in the business gate. So we drove to the business gate to this meeting, and we drove through all of these big companies that you see, and I saw the sign here, 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 and here. And right in the center of that, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put his office for the authority of esports. Why? Gaming is the oil to the machine of technology. I want you to think about this idea of techfluency with me, and let's go to a 5-year-old. I have a 9-year-old, by the way. His name is Benjamin. Every time that he knows that I'm going to speak publicly, he makes sure that I reference him in one way or another, and I just did it. A 5-year-old We're talking about Techfluency. A 5-year-old is playing games like Minecraft. They're playing games like robotics. They're becoming inquisitive. They're searching. They're wanting to wander through things and to explore. They're becoming understandable of computers and technology. And that 5-year-old grows until he's 9, and all of a sudden something happens with a 9-year-old. That same 5-year-old who is now 9, they're not just playing games, they're now creating in games. Because the 5-year-old who played Minecraft now as a 9-year-old is creating inside of Minecraft. They're doing architecture. They're moving things around. They're not just clicking on something, they're actually making something happen. They're envisioning it in their mind, and they're making it into a reality. They are getting introduced to competitive gaming and youth eSports programs, and they're engaging in things like Lego robotics and some forms of coding. I was at an elementary school yesterday just randomly. I didn't even know why they asked me to go there, and I sat in the library with Josh, the librarian, and after I got done chatting with him, it was at Weller Elementary, he said, "Let me show you what I'm teaching our 3rd graders." And he showed me these programs where he was teaching them to code with blocks. These are your future employees, by the way. That's what I'm getting at. That 9-year-old moves to a 12-year-old, and that 12-year-old now is not just creating in games, but they are involved in courses and development. They're looking into more games and to taking courses and learning about different things. They now have access to robotics. They're using coding tools as a 12-year-old. They're being engaged in eSports and competitions, and they're learning things that you would learn in traditional sports, but they're learning it in video games. That 12-year-old moves on to be a 15-year-old. We're talking about Techfluency and the progress of what happens in a kid in Springfield, Missouri. This is happening. They're getting knowledge of the real world. They are developing apps, 15-year-olds. They're developing programs, and they're selling them in the marketplace. Now listen very carefully. We think they're playing video games, but they're actually learning on their own how to sell software into the marketplace. I don't know if any of your companies need any kind of skills like that, but they're doing that already. And they're playing video games. That 15-year-old moves to be a 17-year-old, and now they are applying those gaming skills. They have partnerships with local companies. They have internships with tech companies, and now they are applying to get these scholarships at universities around the country to play. They are building skills to apply to the workforce. I'm going to list some of these skills for you. This is what they've learned from 5 to 9 to 12 to 15 to 17. They're getting technical skills. They're getting critical thinking skills, creativity, emotional intelligence, complex problem solving, risk taking, patience and perseverance, problem solving, strategizing, concentration, leadership, social skills, pattern recognition, multitasking. I wonder when you hire employees if you have any of these skills listed of things that you are evaluating on your future employees. And they are learning this for free by playing video games. We can either ignore it or we can embrace it, and Springfield does have an opportunity to become a modern-day tech city. We can do it through 2 different ways. We can do it by securing the youth that are in our own city to keep them here for our companies so they don't move away to another city. And we can also build our city into a tech city by attracting talent from other cities of people who want to come to Springfield because of what we have here. Now, why would that happen with video games? It's because cities attract based on like-mindedness. Let me test this theory. If we talk about Nashville, we think of music. If we think of New York, we think of theater. If we think of Boston, we think of education. If we think of Las Vegas, we think of tourism. People go where there are other people who do the same things that they do, and they attract the best. You want to find the best musicians in this country? Hop in your car and drive 6.5 hours to Nashville, Tennessee, and you'll find them all over Broadway. That's the truth. What if Springfield was known as the city that embraced gaming? What if? There are 6 shifts that I want to mention that help us as companies to shift towards Techfluency. And I'm going to rattle these off really quick. One is, how do we contribute in Springfield to becoming a modern tech city? How do we contribute in Springfield as employees and leaders and organizations to helping to cultivate this DNA in our city so that we don't have to see our kids leave, but they want to stay because they know the whole city is behind them. And all of a sudden, we've got the best talent that says, I'm not going to go to San Francisco anymore, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to go to Austin anymore, I'm going to stay here in Springfield. How is it that your company, big or small, it doesn't matter, how is it that you can contribute to building this infrastructure of gaming in our city to where it's attracting people from other cities who say, I want to go to Springfield? Why? Because the company's better, because the pay's better, because the housing's better? But no. Because they got a huge community that plays World of Warcraft, and I love those people. And you think this is ridiculous. This is really happening. But there's a difference between it reactively happening and us proactively saying, now we have a target. Now we have a target. So what are some of these things? What are some things that we could do? We can support and contribute to social gaming events that draw from outside cities. If you go to the back of the building or the front of the building, there's a table there from the Springfield Sports Commission. And at that table, you can talk to Lance Kettering or Katie, and they will tell you about something that exists in our city that you may not even know about. It's called the Springfield eSports Coalition. Why does it exist? It exists to create the pathway for you as corporate leaders to integrate into the esports culture in Springfield. And it happens through our own city's sports commission. You could contribute, partner with, help out, support tournaments that are happening around our city right now. You may not even know about them. They're at Missouri State University. They're at OTC. They're at the high schools. They're at Drury University. They're at Contender eSports. They're happening all the time. Every one of the people that are going to those tournaments are people that potentially are your future employees that you do not have to pay to train because they are learning through Techfluency by video games. Another thing you can do is partner with lower and higher education institutions. SPS this past year launched its eSports program in the public school system. You could find out ways that you could partner with them, that you could help Josh Scott with that as the athletic director for SPS. There are private institutions as well, private schools that have their own esports club. You can just ask your kids, they'll tell you who they are, and you can find a way for your company to be a part of that. What if, and what would it look like if there was the O'Reilly Rocket League Club in every SPS school in Springfield? You think those kids would ever forget that? Never. And I heard that O'Reilly is really a tech company. I believe it. What if there was the Bass Pro Call of Wild team in our area code? That would be interesting. There are ways for companies to connect. Something else you could do is coordinate with nonprofits to utilize funds to support the development that they're doing and teaching people gaming and teaching them technology. You could participate in the Corporate Cup. What is the Corporate Cup? Again, make your way back to that blue table back there for the Springfield Sports Commission, and Lance and Katie will tell you about the Corporate Cup. Registration ends at the end of May, but inside of your company, you can get the word out to whoever you want in your newsletters and a bulletin board, however you want to do it, social media, and let them know our company is going to participate in the Springfield Corporate Cup. There are 8 games that your company can participate in. Some of them need 2 players, some need 3 players, some need 5 players. It doesn't matter. You can let them know. They can sign up, and your company can compete against another company in Rocket League. And we have a big tournament that goes on for 7 weeks, I believe, in Springfield. And it happens all over our city, and there's a big championship that happens. There's lots of good things that come from the Corporate Cup. You could do that. You could work with the Discovery Center. You could support the E-Factory. There's lots of ways that you can be involved as a company. Now, you can never remember all these things that I'm telling you. So that's why I put this funny QR code up there for you. This is the time when you grab your phone, and I don't have mine because I politely put mine back, but this is the time when you grab your phone and you turn on your camera app and you aim it at the screen to that QR code. Go ahead and do that with me. It looks like you're all taking my picture, which makes me feel amazing, by the way. Thank you very much for that. You're going to grab that QR code. The reason why you're going to use that QR code is because, again, you can't remember all of this information. So I made it very, very easy. I wrote a book for you. And I wrote the book. It's called the Springfield Corporate Gaming Playbook. You probably should download it because many of your companies are in this book. I gave you strategies. I don't care what industry you're from. We outlined the entire thing. There's a ton of links in there about how to connect. There are executable ideas that you can do as a company starting tomorrow. So if you use that QR code, it will take you to a landing page where you can give me your name and your email address, and as soon as you do, you will be provided the book that you can download. And if you say, Brett Payne, I don't know you, bozo, I'm not going to give you my name and my email address, then I made it even easier for you. You can scroll a little bit down, lower on the page. You don't have to give me anything, and there's still the link. You can download the book and not give me anything, but I'd love to be in touch with you. If you say I don't read books, guess what? I made it even easier. I recorded an audiobook for you. So you can download the book and you can just listen to it while you're driving to work. Everybody should get that book. This guy's name is Heinrich Laudet. Heinrich, in 1961, was the man responsible for seeing what the vision was from that 1901 leader in Spain who wanted to raise a generation of champions, and he said, enough is enough, we've got to do something about this. And he's the one who began to have the vision for raising a generation of champions in a farmhouse. Where are our farmhouses in Springfield? They're at universities. They're in the public school system. They're in private schools. Our farmhouses are tournaments. They're events. They're expressions that can be had at convention centers, at the O'Reilly Center. Our farmhouses, they could be Great Southern. We can have farmhouses all over Springfield. And my question to you today is, I wonder, in your company, is there an Heinrich Laudet? Is there someone who is picking up what I'm throwing down? I don't know why I just said that, but that sounded very cool when I just said it. There might be an Heinrich Laudet in your company that has a vision, that understands that for us to achieve what we want to achieve in this city as being a tech city, of being known as a tech city, where we don't make our kids leave. We make it so they want to stay, and it benefits our entire city because we've attracted them, we've contributed to their Techfluency. You have the vision for that. There might be an Heinrich Laudet in your company, and if there is one, you need to find me. I still build farmhouses. I still build facilities all over this country that connect with cities. They are farmhouses. And if everything goes right, then the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is going to get what he wants by 2030, because a little group of people in Springfield, Missouri might have the chance to go build him hundreds of farmhouses. And that's really going to happen. In the same respect, Springfield has an incredible opportunity to be number one. And we can do that by focusing on becoming the tech city and making it very easy by contributing to the DNA of gaming in Springfield. Thank you very much.